can you determine the amount that collectivism has infected a society by the state of its property rights? And if that's the case, what is the state of property rights in a place like America?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's a good question, Brian, because that cuts right to the chase. And probably if I had sat back and asked you the same question, we would have gotten the answer quicker, because that's really it. In the state today, what is the condition of property rights? Well, they're in pretty bad shape, and that's why the Communist Manifesto says that the whole thing can be summed up in one phrase, and that's the abolition of property. Because it's not just communism, by the way. Hitler had the same idea. The fascists and the Nazis, and any other form of collectivism, including the Republicans and the Democrats, their other form, they're pretty much yielding bit by bit. Now they're against all property because they like the idea that the government will come in and they'll take over your property and then allow you to live in it. Now it's not your property anymore, it's theirs. And so you don't have the property. Now, guess who controls who? If you don't do what you're told, you'll be kicked out of the house. You can't afford that because it'll affect your ability to survive. So they gotcha. That's why all collectivist regimes, in fact, that's why all tyrannies, for the most part, even those that are not entirely collectivist, do not like people to have property because that gives them independence. Gives them the ability to resist the tyrannical power. They don't like that at all. So that's it in a nutshell.
How do you feel about the Second Amendment? I had a Green Beret named Tim Kennedy on my show a few weeks back, who's been on the show before. He's also an MMA fighter, and he's very pro-gun. And we were talking about property rights and freedom of speech, and it kind of clicked in my head, and I said, oh, if you can't defend your property, then you really don't have the ownership of it. And so that's where the right to bear arms comes in, so you can keep your property. It was probably written in the Constitution because they were worried about the king's soldiers taking property. Is that all related to speech and property and individualism in your mind?
Yes, it is, because we're back to what I said a moment ago. The only two areas where it's generally agreed that you can use violence against another human being, including lethal force, is the defense of your life and your liberty. So the extent to which a particular piece of property is necessary for the defense of your life and liberty, that's the extent to which you certainly have a right to use any weapon, not just guns. You can use bricks, baseball bats, spoons, knives, forks, I mean, anything, you know. It's not just guns. They like to make a big deal out of the guns. That's the material. How about a sword? You know, it's all bows and arrows. The idea is that you're using something, a piece of property, a weapon, to defend your life and your liberty. Now, if you're using it for any other force, any other purpose, I should say, now we have a problem, because now it's not defensive anymore, it's aggressive.
Right, okay. Now, what are ways that they are removing our property rights or our ownership of property? And then I want to talk about money, because this dovetails very nicely into how you talk about money. Because if you think you own your money, well, that's another discussion we're going to have next, and the value of your money, et cetera. But just to finish up on property, Ed, are they trying to, because these days it seems like, you know, people growing up in America don't even grow up with the option or desire to own property. It seems like we're being conditioned now as a society where we don't own anything. Is that a way of taking property rights away? And are there other ways that the collectivism gets pushed on what used to be an individualist's core beliefs or core rights?
Yes, I think the answer to both of those questions is yes and yes. Because the brain warping that's going on is quite effective. It's been going on for a long time in America and around the world, in the school system in particular. The idea that property rights are not only unnecessary, because if you live in a really proper state, like a socialist utopia, well, who needs property? Because the state provides everything you need.
Right.
And who needs property? And so that's obviously stupid, because for the reason we were just talking about. You need property to defend your life and your liberty. So, the educational process conditions people's minds to accept the fact that we don't need property. And secondly, it's not certainly worth fighting for. And in fact, if you read all the books that they're thrust upon you, you come away with the idea that property is probably a bad thing because it leads to injustice, that some people have more things than other people. Right. And what they don't realize that in every collectivist system, including communism, socialism, fascism, Nazism, everyone, regardless of what it's called, there's always great inequality. And some of these socialist regimes and communist regimes have the greatest inequality. There's nothing greater than the top dog who doesn't necessarily own anything in his own name, but he's the top man and he can have anything he wants at any time. You talk about class differential, that's the ultimate, but people don't see that. So yes, the property rights are being eroded drastically around the world because it's the necessary first step to get people to be in a position where they must accept subservience or die. It's the best control over people, much better than guns and bayonets. Take away their food and their shelter, and people will get in line. I've talked to many men who have been on the battlefield and have medals on their chests and scars on their bodies to show that they are very courageous people, and they will stand and have stood against an enemy at great risk to their lives in the defense of liberty. And yet these same people melt like candle wax when you threaten them to take away their income. They say, well, I don't want to do this because it's controversial and I might lose my job. And then how would I support my family? I have a wife and children to support. And I might be thrown out of my house. I'd have to live on the street. And so the same man who had so much courage against an enemy with a gun melts like wax under economic pressures of this kind. And our enemy knows that. That's why the big push is to get people to abandon property, to stop thinking of it as essential, and actually to detest it. A lot of the kids coming out of school, they say, property is bad. And they have no idea what they've stepped into.
So Jim Rickards has just recorded a video that's not available to anyone in the public, and he's going to be talking about how this upcoming recession is going to be fast, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be nasty. But at the same time, he's going to show you how you can position yourself to profit from all of this chaos. Now, we've made this video only available to our viewers. Go to londonreal.tv/Jim. Watch that immediately. I can't say enough good things about Jim Rickards. He understands the global economic system better than any guest I've ever had on London Real. His predictions are almost uncannily true, and you can learn how to profit from his vision, from his expertise, and his understanding of economics. So go to londonreal.tv/Jim or click the link below. It's an excellent, excellent look on what's going to happen in the future and how you can position yourself to profit from that. Jim is one of the best in the business, one of my favorite guests on London Real, and he's very, very good at predicting the future and showing us all to profit from it. So click the link, and I hope you enjoy. I'm looking for partners, collaborators, colleagues who want to join forces with me around the globe and create real value, generational wealth, and financial freedom for everyone else around the world. Get involved in the cryptocurrency markets, get involved in the NFT markets. This is your moment. Life all comes down to a few moments. Don't let this pass. Now it's not too late. Next year's going to be too late. Ultimately, this is about freedom. That's the way I see it. This is about giving power back to the people and enabling billions of people worldwide to use the financial markets to improve their lives and those of their friends and their families and their communities. Honestly, I think it's a violation of human rights not to allow people basic access to financial services. Because right now people are being kept in the dark, they're being robbed of education, and it's a travesty. And so I'm looking for people that want to join me and be a part of this solution. And that all happens inside the DeFi Academy. The gains my students are making are absolutely amazing. Double, triple digit gains in the first month alone. That's amazing. This will change your life. Now is the time to get involved. I'm gonna tell you exactly how my students in my academy made money in the last 30 days. I'm talking about real trading results. And let me just whet your appetite a little bit. Let me hit you with some numbers. I'm talking Brendan from New Zealand is up 68.77% on the month. Steve from Europe up 83%. Albert in Singapore up 169.9% on one single trade. I got Susan up 153% on her call options alone. Also rocking 139% returns and 442% returns as well on individual trades. These are people that are changing their financial future in the last 30 days, but it's based on trading discipline.
I've graduated over 500 students from inside my academy from over 54 countries around the world. It's amazing. When it comes to crypto, DeFi, and blockchain, we love this space. We truly believe it's the future. This is down to our core. It's authentic to what we're doing, and everybody can tell through the camera because you can't make this stuff up.
If you're watching me now, wherever you are, I implore you, take 60 seconds right now and join my academy. Apply today. Now you've got a chance. Life all comes down to a few moments. What are you gonna do? What's the choice that you're going to make?